All right, everyone. Today, we are diving into something, well, something that might just completely flip everything you think you know about how the world works. It's an economic model called the Hundun economy. And trust me, it's a vision that will have you questioning, well, everything. Society, money, our entire future.
So let's just start with this. This is the goal, the entire purpose of the Hundun economy. Think about that for a second. It's not about GDP, it's not about market efficiency. It's about getting rid of all human anxiety. The kind of anxiety we all feel about food, housing, getting sick, all of it. That is a massive promise, right? And as you're about to see, the plan to get there is just as wild.
Okay, so where does an idea this radical even come from? Well, here's the thing. The source material claims this isn't some human invention. Nope, it's supposedly a model copied directly from heaven. So what that means in practice is that it's designed to be this perfect, non-human system, one that doesn't have all the flaws that we humans bake into our own economies. The whole point is to bring that perfect system down to earth and finally put an end to all this suffering.
All right, so before we can really get into the solution, we've got to understand the problem it's trying to solve. And this blueprint, it kicks things off with a really sharp critique of the two major economic systems that run our world right now.
And here's the breakdown. The source material argues that both of our big systems are just fundamentally broken. But, and this is key, they're broken for totally different reasons. On one side, you've got the planned economy, which it says fails because, well, humans just aren't wise enough to plan everything. It's all about our limitations. Then on the other side, you've got the market economy, which it says fails because of pure, unchecked self-interest. The bottom line, according to this text, neither one of them can ever lead to a world where everyone is happy.
So let's dig a little deeper into the planned economy. The text basically says it's a total recipe for disaster. Why? Because it claims that since we humans are, flawed and not all-knowing, any attempt to control an entire economy from the top is just doomed to fail. It's going to lead to corruption, things are going to stagnate, and ultimately people lose their freedom. It's just inevitable.
But it's not any kinder to the market economy, not at all. It argues that a system that's all about self-interest and profit, that creates its own special kind of catastrophe. We're talking about a world with massive, extreme inequality, total environmental destruction, and a place where even our relationships with each other just get boiled down to a price tag.
And this quote, wow, it just perfectly sums up the critique. It's basically saying that the whole idea of the invisible hand of the market, it's not some gentle guide leading us to prosperity. No. It's a force that shoves us right back into a brutal jungle economy, a world where it's every person for themselves and only the strongest survive. So, this leaves us with a huge question, right? If one system leads to poverty and control, and the other leads to a brutal free-for-all, what's left? Is there another way? Well, according to this source material, the answer is a big yes. Let's get into what it proposes.
And that brings us to the main event, the Hundun economy. Now, it's not presented as just, another option on the table. It's framed as the only optimal path forward for humanity, the one way to finally escape all the failures of our past and build a society that's actually truly harmonious.
And just look at this definition. This is so revealing. It has nothing to do with production quotas or supply and demand. Forget all that. The way you measure success in this economy is completely different. It's about human joy, freedom, spiritual fulfillment. Can you imagine?
Okay, so here's the million-dollar question, or maybe the $0 question in this case. How would this thing actually work? Well, the mechanics laid out in the source are, let's just say, revolutionary. It requires us to basically tear down and rethink the biggest pillars of our modern world.
So, the text breaks it down into these 4 core principles. And just take a second here because these are absolutely massive. 1. All resources are shared. No private property. 2. AI governs society. Not people, AI. 3. Traditional institutions like government, even marriage, they just disappear. And 4. Money is abolished. Gone. Okay, we have to unpack each one of these.
Okay, first up, this idea of shared resources. Think about it. In the Hundun economy, private ownership is just gone. You don't own your home, you don't own your car, but the flip side is you have access to everything you could possibly need. It's like everything on Earth is a shared inheritance for every single person. And get this, the text says that trying to hoard wealth for yourself would actually be seen as something shameful.
All right, next up is the AI. The idea here is to completely remove human error, human corruption from the equation. The source imagines a world where intelligent robots and AI are running the whole show. We're talking everything from factories and resource distribution to hospitals and even the court system. The logic is pretty simple. A super smart, incorruptible AI could make perfectly fair and efficient decisions for everyone, without any of the human bias, greed, or just plain incompetence that gets in our way.
And now for maybe the most mind-bending idea of all, a world with no money. I mean, the engine that drives our entire global society, just poof, it's gone. So you have to wonder, right? In a world with no cash, no credit cards, no profit motive, what on earth motivates people? What's the system of value?
Well, the text introduces something called F-coin. And no, this is not money you can use to buy a Lamborghini. It's more like a measure of your spiritual value, of your positive impact on the world. You could almost think of it like a social credit system, but one that's based entirely on being a good person. So you'd earn F-coin by helping people, creating beautiful art, or discovering something new. It completely flips the incentive structure, away from hoarding stuff and towards creativity, love, and service.
And if you pull on all these threads, the source claims the consequences would be absolutely profound. It's like a domino effect. If there's no poverty, no private property, no greed, well, what's the motive for most crime? It just disappears. If you don't have nations fighting over resources, what do you need an army for? They become obsolete. The argument is that society itself would be totally transformed, right from its very foundations. So, let's zoom out. What's the big picture here? What's the grand vision of the Hundun economy? Really, it's a challenge to completely rethink what human civilization is even for. And the text is pretty clear on this point. It says that to really, truly get this concept, you have to shift your perspective, like way up. You have to stop thinking like an individual just trying to survive and start looking at the world from this much higher, more universal viewpoint, asking what is truly best for everyone. So we've just walked through one incredibly radical vision from this source material. And look, whether you think this is a beautiful utopia or a completely impossible fantasy, it leaves all of us with a really powerful question to chew on. What would our world actually look like? What would it feel like if it was designed for happiness, not for profit?